I often have people ask me about how do we get people to be passionate? How do we get people to live in awe and wonderment over our brands, over our services? And I'm telling you today, you have to live it yourself. And I have a story about somebody who's been doing that for over 30 years. It's going to be an amazing story, and I'm so excited to be able to share it with you right here today. Welcome to the next 24 hours, where I'm going to give you real information you can really use to transform your life and work one day at a time. I'll be your host, Curtis Zimmerman. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? So excited about today's podcast. And, I get the opportunity to travel quite a lot in my job. And sometimes things unfold and you just never know what the world's going to show you. And really, when you get to be a little older, how it's going to reflect back to your past. So I received a call from this place called El Camino College, and they wanted me to come in and they wanted me to do my keynote speech. And it's not just a college, it's actually like a whole theater department and a whole speaking series. And they bring in all different kinds of acts to come in and perform there. And after I got the call, I started thinking about it because it brought me back to when I was miming as a little kid. I was like 13 years old, and the LA Mime Company had been booked to perform at this theater arts venue called El Camino College, and they were going to do their show. And the LA Mime Company was founded by Tommy McLaughlin, and Tommy McLaughlin is the gentleman that saw me in the mall and then kind of took me under his wing and really kind of taught me how to be a mime over a few years. So they had this big program come up, and they needed someone to hold the cards. So to introduce each of the mime pieces, there would be somebody that would go to a blackout in the theater, and then a spotlight, and then the person would be standing there holding a card, introducing the next piece that they were going to do. So Tommy gave me a call and said, Curtis, the LA Mime Company, this is a big job, and we have this thing, and we'd like to ask you to be our card holder. And it was a big honor. It was a huge deal at the time, especially being like 13 years old. And the LA Mime Company actually, after this program and some others, they went and did this television show called the Dick Van Dyke and Company show. So the and Company was the LA Mime Company. So that show, I think, was on for 2 seasons. So just to give you kind of a grasp of how talented and amazing these people were. So huge honor. And I went and I did it, and I held the cards, and it was great. So now, all these years later, all the performances, all the stages, all the speeches, to have that exact same venue call me and say, hey, Curtis, we want you to come back and we want to hear your speech. We want you to give life a performance level in the same theater. So it was really a surreal moment for me being up there giving the speech in the same theater that I did my first real performances as a performer on a stage. But there was so much more that I was about to be given that I had no idea about. And what that is I put out a little stuff on Facebook and did some things saying, hey, I'm going to be here at this performance in LA. If anybody back, from the day is in town and would like to come and see it, I'd love to meet and maybe have dinner or something prior to. And I had this gentleman reach out. And first, it was is this Curtis the Mime? Is this Dennis Forel, the Balloon Man? And we went back and forth, and sure enough, it was Dennis Forel, the Balloon Man, that used to work at Old Town Mall years and years and years ago. And so when I first met Tommy, there was about, probably about 15 performers that worked at the mall at that time, Old Town Mall in Torrance, California. And Dennis Forel was one of those people, and he was a balloon artist. And Dennis Forel wasn't just a balloon artist, but he was a master teacher and a master sculptor and an amazing storyteller. And, it's so interesting when you meet these really special, talented, crazy, awesome people. Sometimes you don't realize all the gifts they're giving you until after. Sometimes it takes years to look back and go, wow, my first boss taught me this. Wow, this teacher gave me these gifts. Wow, my neighbor that was, always working in the garage that taught me how to do something with a car. You don't realize how amazing they were until years later. And I would have to say, to be honest with you, that's true with me now, looking back on Dennis Forel. So Dennis Forel is a balloon sculptor and a balloon artist. And it's hard for me to tell this story because I know right now when I say that, you have a vision in your head. You think of what a balloon man, oh, he's a balloon man. You're like at a festival or you're at the mall and there's some guy standing there with this giant tube that he puts the balloon on and blows up the balloon. And then he twists it and he might take another balloon and make a hat or make a sword. And he gives it to you and then he asks for $1. That's what you think of when you think of a balloon man. And what I'm telling you is that's not what I grew up with, and that's not what Dennis Forel is. Dennis Forel is a balloon artist, and he's written a couple books on what it means to be a balloon man. He's literally invented dozens and dozens of balloon animals and balloon sculptures. And some of the things about him that are interesting is he only uses one balloon. He says, Curtis, I'm able to twist and turn and make these amazing sculptures, but I only use one balloon. It's easier. The more balloons you use, the easier it gets. He always only uses one balloon, and that's really cool. And he does things like a parrot that is crazy, and he can stick it and it like perches on your finger, or he can do it and he sticks it and puts it on your shirt like you're a pirate and it really sticks on your shirt. He does so many different things, but I have to share with you now the important part of what he does as a performer and the passion he brings to what he does every day. Because you would think, wow, Curtis, 40 years ago at a mall and you were a little kid and he did that. I bet then he had to go and get a real job and go do something else. After talking to him at the program I did in Torrance, California, I realized that he's never stopped being a balloon sculptor and being a balloon man all these years. 30 years have passed, and he's never done anything other than what he loves and what he's passionate about. And that's just, to me, something that made me take pause, and it's something I want you to think about. He loves what he does every single day, everywhere he goes. He isn't a balloon man because he wants to make $1. He literally is hired by large venues, and he has people standing in line all the way around him. And it's not about the tip. He doesn't have to get tips. He's paid. It's about the stories, and it's about the magic he does. And watching him operate in a crowd, I just have to tell you, it's crazy. So he stands there. He never uses a pump. He blows up every single balloon individually. And when I first sat with him and I said, okay, teach me how to do a balloon animal, he said, well, the number one thing is you never get a lesson from me unless you can blow up the balloon. And the hardest part of being a balloon man is being able to blow up the balloon. And I don't know if you've ever tried it before, but trust me, it's really hard. So I went home, I got a bag of balloons. I went home, I practiced till I could finally at least blow up the balloon. Then I sat with him and he taught me 3 or 4 balloon animals, and it was great. But he taught me so much more, and that is he taught me how to work a crowd. You see, he would go out and he would stand in the mall and he'd just start blowing up a balloon. And then a child would come up and he'd say, well, what's your favorite animal? And once that happened, the rest of the world disappeared. Because now he was having an experience with this child. And he was talking. Every single animal he does has a story. And it's an amazing story, and it unfolds. And as it does, his hands, as well as any magician, and I've seen the best in the world, his hands are flying around, and he's twisting and turning this balloon animal, not even looking at it. He's looking eye to eye, telling this amazing story. And then all of a sudden, just as he gets to the climax of the story, from behind his back, he whips around and presents this amazing balloon like it's a miracle. And it's crazy and it looks awesome. And the kids' eyes light up and he hands it to them and they walk off. I've seen him do this thousands and thousands of times before. Over the years watching him do this. And every single time he brings that and he presents it, his face is just as excited as that child's face. And what's so interesting for me is he knows for a fact he's giving them a piece of artwork that he's worked thousands of hours on to make the ears perfect, to make the body perfect, to make it totally look like that animal. But he also knows that that piece of artwork probably won't even last the day. And that's what's so great about it. People walk away with his artwork, but it's not because they're going to have it, put up on a shelf for 16 years. They're going to give it to their grandkids. He knows the odds of that staying in the shape it's in and even getting home from wherever they are is pretty slim. What he does know is what's really going to be taken away from that child is the story and the interaction and the time he spent to present this magic trick to that young child. And that's something I think every great artist understands. When you go see a play, you don't get to take that play home with you and put it on the shelf. It's a live experience. You've experienced something that changed you and changed the way you see humanity. And that's the way Dennis Forel looks at every single of the millions, literally, of the balloons he's done over his career. That's the way he looks at every one of those interactions. And that's so crazy because I'll tell you this right now, Dennis Forel took me when I was there in Torrance. He said, Curtis, I have something I want to take you to. I know it's something that we talked about years ago, and that's to go to the Magic Castle. And Dennis Forel has been a member of the Magic Castle for 30 years. And the only way you can go to the Magic Castle is if you're a member. He's been a member for 30 years, and it's been on my bucket list. And we went, and Dennis Forel was like a rock star at a concert. Everybody knew him. All the magicians knew him. He's been going a couple times a week for the last 30 years, giving away his gifts, making balloon animals, talking to people, learning new skills, learning about people. And I learned a lot from him just standing watching the way he works an audience. When a child comes up and they want a balloon and they're excited, he's excited, but also you need to know he's not only focused on them. Basically, it's like he's shuffling a deck of cards, making the balloon animal. He's one-to-one, making that child feel like they're the only person in the world, but he's also watching the crowd because every other child that comes up, in his mind, he keeps an order of who's next. And he never goes out of order. And it can be 50 children or it could be 5. And he knows exactly who's next according to if they're surrounding him in a circle or not. And I can tell you this, many people who are in a rush or think that they're special or think that, oh, my child needs to go to the front of the line. I've seen him do it so many times. He gets right at the parent. So see all of these children? They've been waiting and they will be getting balloons and they're going to be getting stories. And then I'd love to give your daughter or your son one. But if you don't have time, probably today's not the day. There's a certain amount of justice in what he does. You wait in line, you say please and thank you, and you get an amazing experience. If you cut in line, if you don't say please and thank you, if you're kind of rude, he has you go to the end of the line. I've seen him do it before. And that's something I think it's just civility is so important. I'm giving you a free gift and you want to be rude or say something. No, that's not the way it works. Not in Dennis Forel's universe. And I want you to think about your universe. What do you think that I need to make sure that this is what I demand because of the gifts I'm giving away every day? Also, I'll tell you this, if there's a little child there and he comes up and says, oh yeah, I'd like a dog and my sister wants a giraffe. I've seen him get down on one knee and says, listen, I'd love to make you a dog, but you need to go tell your sister that if she wants a giraffe, she has to come and ask me herself. Nobody gets a balloon animal without asking me directly. And, at the time I thought, well, that's kind of rude. Why wouldn't he just make 2 and move on? And what I realized is the little girl that wants a giraffe so bad that she gets up all of her courage and she walks up and she looks at the balloon man and says, okay, I'd like a giraffe. Then he owns her. He gets down and he starts talking about giraffes. He starts talking about Africa. He starts telling the story about the amazing giraffes that he's seen. And then before she even knows it, an amazing giraffe appears from behind his back like a magic trick. And she now knows to get the value of something and to really get the experience, I have to go and do it myself. And he's teaching a valuable lesson. If you want to have life give you what you really want, you have to go ask for it. Stop waiting for other people to bring you things. Stop waiting for life to give you everything. Go ask for it. So many little tools and tips and tricks I learned from him. It's amazing. This isn't a new thing for Dennis. giving away his gifts, living in his brilliance. I remember when I worked at the mall one day, I think I was about 13 and a half, Dennis asked all of the performers to have a meeting. And at Old Town Mall, there was a big gazebo area and there was an upstairs. He said, we need to have a meeting upstairs. And we didn't have very many meetings, so I thought this must be really important. So we got up to the top of the stairs, and then he went into this little office and he opened it up. He brought out 4 or 5 large trash bags filled with inflated balloons, just like, blown up all the way. And he handed it to each of us. And then he took his time and he took one balloon out and he showed us that if we put our finger in the balloon and we twisted it just right, then we could lean off the balcony and let it go. And the balloon, like a rocket, would shoot all the way across the whole food court. And he did 2 of them, and then that was all it took. There were about 30 people standing down there, jumping up and down, yelling, saying, shoot me one, shoot me one. And all the performers looked at him and looked at the balloons and looked at everybody downstairs, and that was it. For 20 minutes, we were just pew, pew, we were shooting them. It was awesome. But you know what was the most interesting for me, reflecting back on it now, is that Dennis shot the first 2 off, and then he stood back, and he watched. And he watched these other performers share something and give it away. And that's what Dennis did every day. Think about what he did in that interaction. He went upstairs on his lunch break and he blew up 100 balloons, tied them all, put them in trash bags. Then he went and got his friends together and he said, take these. And it was his gift. Balloons, that's his gift. Take these and go and see the joy it is to shoot these off the balcony and watch the people's faces. And he just stood back and he watched us interacting and doing that. And that was so amazing. And I learned so much about the gifts we have are great, but man, if you can give those away to other people, if you can share that in some way and really stay inspired, every balloon animal he gives, his face lights up. Imagine he makes a living doing that now. Now, look, he's not a rich man, but he's booked all the time. He's not, living in a crazy house, but he's made enough money in his life to put his 2 kids through college. And every day, Dennis Forel hands out his gifts. He's living the dream. It's interesting for me because we try to make everything so complicated. And I've worked with some of the largest brands on the planet. And it's so interesting. They're customer facing and they have huge meetings about, well, how are we going to treat the customers and how are we going to train our people? And Dennis Forel gives us everything we need to know. He gives us the blueprint of how we can reach the customer where the customer lives. He has a system. He starts with this amazing product. And as soon as he shows it, he starts attracting customers and they come to him. And then he has a system of how they're going to stand and where they're going to be and everyone's in line. And then he has a brand story. Every one of those balloon animals has a story behind it, which makes people buy in and believe in that product and are so honored to have it because they're taking that story away with them. Also, he makes the experience literally magical. Experience marketing is everything. He doesn't just make balloon animals and then put them out and people walk up and grab them. He makes it an experience. He truly makes every single customer feel like they're the only person on the planet. He makes sure every experience is a great experience. And if it's something that goes wrong, if somebody takes a balloon animal and they go off and then it comes apart, he'll quickly take that. I've seen him do it so many times. People walk up with a balloon animal that's come apart and he'll quickly take that and fix it. And if he can't fix it, he'll give them a brand new one. And he doesn't charge more and he doesn't make it a hassle and he doesn't act like, oh my gosh, these people. He doesn't do that. He smiles as he takes it and fixes their problem. And they leave feeling even better about his brand and his services. The last thing I'd like to just share is that he understands viral marketing. He understands that when he gives all of us the balloons to shoot off the end of the gazebo area and have them fly into the audience, think about that's viral marketing. He's having us be brand ambassadors for him. Also, it's so interesting for me because when you think about the Nike swish or you think about the Adidas logo on everyone's shirts, everywhere he goes, people are leaving with these balloon animals, and he's permeating the entire event. It doesn't matter if it's a festival. It doesn't matter if it's a mall. It doesn't matter where he is. After a while, everybody knows, wow, there's a balloon man here. It's funny because when we were at the Magic Castle, he made about 5 or 6 balloons, and everyone we saw that was a normal person that went there a lot, that was a member, they said, Dennis, I knew you were here an hour ago. Because literally his balloons were going in places he wasn't even going. So all of this is transferable to wherever you sit. I don't care if you're C-suite. I don't care if you're an hourly employee facing the customer every single day. Dennis Forel gives you that blueprint to go out and make your customers smile and feel great about your brand, your service, or your products. So here we are. It is time for the 24-hour challenge. What are you going to do in the next 24 hours to take this information and actually have an impact in your life or the world around you? I want you to remember in my keynote, I talk about every single day you open your eyes, it's opening day on your life. Stop rereading old scripts. You got to write the next chapter. And part of that is seeing things fresh. Part of that is seeing the awe and wonderment in the world we live in. And so your challenge for the next 24 hours is to see if you can do that for somebody else. What do you love to do? I don't care if it's a coffee shop you love to go to. I don't care if it's golfing. I don't care if it's a certain music you like to listen to. Who can you seek out and share that with them and try to create that awe and wonderment in something you enjoy in them? And I'll just tell you this, some of the brands I work with, they work on that all the time. They try to figure out how can we get that excitement back in that brand and share it with our customers every day. So that's your challenge. Go out. Remember, the next 24 hours is what you're going to live starting right now. Go make them count. Hey, thank you for listening to the next 24 hours. It would mean a lot to me if you found this content today valuable, that you share it with your friends. Leave me a review. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to learn more about what I do, it's really simple. Just go to curtiszimmerman.com. Remember, in order to live the dream, you have to make the next 24 hours count. The clock is ticking.